You ever wonder how something massive like a skyscraper gets built? Or how a brand new app goes from just an idea in someone's head to actually living on your phone? Well, it turns out there's a common playbook behind all of it, and today we're going to walk through that exact guide.
I mean, that's the big question, isn't it? How do you take that spark, that brilliant idea, and actually make it something tangible, something real? It can feel like you're trying to jump across this huge chasm. But what if I told you there's a map for that?
Yep, you use a map, a universal, 5-step guide that pretty much works for any successful project you can think of. It gives you a clear path from what if all the way to we did it. And we're about to walk through every single step.
All right, so let's unfold this thing. Before we dive into any of the nitty-gritty details, we need to get that bird's eye view, see the whole journey from start to finish. This is the fundamental structure that's going to guide us.
And here it is. The whole map is built on these 5 phases, or process groups. First, you have to formally kick things off. That's initiating. Then comes the really heavy lifting, the planning. After that, you get to the doing part, the executing. But, and this is super important, while you're executing, you're also constantly monitoring and controlling to make sure you stay on track. And finally, you cross the finish line by officially closing the project out.
So let's take that very first step. Before anyone writes a single line of code, before a single brick is laid, every single project has to get the official green light. This whole phase is about getting that go signal and figuring out what this journey is even about in the first place.
And that's the initiating process group. The best way to think about it is like you're creating the project's birth certificate. You're not worrying about detailed schedules or budgets yet. Nope. You're just getting the official sign-off, defining that big picture goal, and, crucially, putting someone's name down as the project manager. This is the moment the project becomes real.
Okay, so we've got the green light. The project officially exists. Now what? Well, now you have to build the blueprint. And I'm not kidding. This next phase is probably the most critical part of the entire journey. A good plan is what separates success from, well, not success.
Welcome to the Planning Process Group. This is where you ask and answer all the tough questions before you start spending money and time. It's kind of like a chef writing a super detailed recipe. What are the ingredients? What are the steps? How long will it take? How much will it cost? All before you even turn on the stove. This becomes your master plan for everything that comes next.
Now, to really get how planning works, you have to understand this simple little engine called a process. It's a basic 3-step flow. You start with your inputs, your raw materials, like a request from a stakeholder. You apply a process, which is just a set of tools and techniques, maybe like a brainstorming session. And what you get on the other side is an output, the finished product, like a signed-off document.
I love this quote because it just nails the idea of an output. You're taking these raw materials, ideas, requests, data, and you're transforming them into a polished stone, something valuable. That's the whole point of every single process.
Okay, take a deep breath. In the world of formal project management, if you look at the official guide, there are over 660 of these individual inputs, tools, techniques, and outputs. They call them ITTOs for short. Yeah, it looks terrifying, I know. But wait. Here is the single most important piece of advice you will get about this. Do not try to memorize all of them. You will drive yourself absolutely crazy. The real key is to just understand why they exist. It's about the logic of the system, not a memory test.
So where do all those inputs even come from? Well, they mostly fall into 2 big, simple categories. On one hand, you've got the stuff you can't control. Think of it as the weather or the rules of the game, company culture, legal stuff. We call those EEFs. On the other hand, you've got all the helpful stuff your company gives you. It's assets. This could be document templates, old project files, databases, and we call those OPAs.
So, after all that planning, what's the grand prize? What's the final output? You get this, the Project Management Plan. This is the master blueprint. It is the single source of truth for the entire project. It's really just a big collection of smaller plans that spell out exactly how you're going to handle your schedule, your budget, quality, risks, literally everything. It's your North Star. Okay, blueprint is done. It's locked in. So now we move into the part of the project where things get real. The planning is over. It's time to actually build the thing.
This is the executing process group. If planning was designing the house, this is where you pour the foundation, put up the walls, and install the roof. It's all about the team actually doing the work that was laid out in that beautiful plan we just made. So if the team is building, what's the project manager doing?
Well, they're like the conductor of an orchestra. They're directing all the different parts, making sure everyone has the resources they need, handling all the communications, and standing by ready to deal with any risks that pop up. This is the dynamic, beating heart of the project.
Now, just because the team is busy and working hard doesn't automatically mean the project is on track. You got to make sure you're actually heading in the right direction. So this last section is all about how we track our progress and, finally, how we cross that finish line.
Think of monitoring and controlling as the project's dashboard, or its GPS. It's this constant process of checking in. Are we on schedule? Are we on budget? You're always comparing where you are to where your plan said you should be. And if you start to drift off course, this is where you make the corrections.
And that whole correction process follows this really clear path. You start with raw data. These are just the facts, the raw numbers, like this task took 10 hours. Then you add context to turn that into information. For example, this task took 10 hours, which means we're 2 hours behind schedule. And finally, you package all that up into a report that tells the full story so that leaders can make smart decisions.
Sooner or later, you're going to hear those famous words. Hey, can we just add this one more feature? So what do? You don't just say yes, you use a change request. It's a formal process that stops chaos by making everyone look at how a change will affect the schedule and the budget before you approve it. This is what keeps a project from spiraling out of control.
And at last, we've arrived at our destination. This is the closing process group, and it is so important. See, it's not enough to just stop working. Every project needs a formal, official end. This is where you get the final sign-offs and you get to declare, mission accomplished.
Just remember this, a project is not done until it is officially closed. Yeah, this means handing off the final product and archiving all the documents. But the most valuable thing you do here, the absolute gold, is capturing the lessons learned. What went right, what went wrong. That knowledge is the single biggest asset you can take with you to the next project.
So there you have it, the 5-step map that takes you all the way from an idea to a finished reality. It's not some kind of magic, it's a framework. It's a playbook that gives you structure and control over the chaos. So now that you've seen the map, there's really only one question left to ask. What will you build?